Are you tired of just guessing how much to charge for your newborn photography? Or maybe you've heard that you need to do your cost of doing business in order to figure out your prices, but you don't even know what that is. Or maybe you have done your cost of doing business and thought to yourself, there is no way my clients would pay this much money. How am I ever going to make enough to cover my expenses? Or maybe you've even tried copying the prices of other successful photographers around you. Maybe you keep hearing that you're too expensive and your potential clients are going to other photographers that in your area that are cheaper. Or maybe you are fully booked, but you're just not meeting the income goals that you really need to hit. So in this video, I'm going to be going over complete pricing strategy to figure out how much you specifically need to be charging for your newborn photography. So the first thing to realize is every business is unique. So this is why it's not smart to just copy the photographers around you, because every business has unique needs and needs to have unique prices that are decided on based on like actual numbers and strategy, and not just random guessing or copying or basing it on what you think people will pay. So it really needs to be broken down, and you need to have like really specific reasons for why you're charging what you charge. That way you can actually articulate that to clients, like this is my value, this is why I am priced this way. And also that way you are not second guessing yourself. You want to go into any conversation with a client being really confident about your prices. And if you know exactly why you're charging what you're charging, you are going to come off a lot more confident, and your clients are going to be more confident about your prices and the fact that they are aligned with the value that you bring as a photographer. And then you also want to be sure that you are charging the amount that is going to bring you the income that you need for whatever your unique situation is. I know everybody's situation is different. Maybe you are a full-time photographer and you're a single mom supporting all of your kids by yourself, or a single dad. Maybe you have a spouse that is the primary breadwinner, and so you only need to make a part-time income. Or, maybe you're single and you're just supporting yourself. So everybody has different income goals based on their specific situation. And then everybody has different costs to running their business, right? Like if you own a studio and props and you have a client closet, you are going to have different expenses than someone who is an outdoor natural light photographer with no props and not as many expenses. Obviously there's the camera gear and there's the software. There's a lot of things that go into the cost, but it's not going to be as high as someone who has that recurring costs of, a studio upkeep and all of that. So everybody's business is going to be different. There is so much that goes into it. Oh, and location, obviously, okay? And just because your location is the same as, the people around you, the photographers that are also in your area, does not mean that you need to be charging the same as they are. But at the same time, like I see, people offering advice about what to charge in like photography Facebook groups all the time. And or someone will post like, here's my work, what should I charge? And the reason that kind of like generic advice doesn't work is because every location is going to be different, right? Like a photographer in New York City cannot charge the same prices as a photographer in like rural Alabama, because there's going to be more discretionary income from the clients in New York City than there will be in rural Alabama. There's going to be a bigger pool of wealthier people, probably, just because there's more people in general. And so there's usually, like in big cities, there's a bigger gap of like wealthier people and people who are in poverty versus like the rural communities are usually, there's a smaller income gap between the top and the bottom. So anyway, all of that like needs to be factored in to your pricing. And that is like, when you take all of these things into account, it's going to be different based on each business. And that's why you specifically need to figure out your unique situation and your unique like business and all of these things about your business in order to calculate your pricing. So it can't be the same as someone else's unless, you know, you do all the calculations and it comes out exactly the same. But anyway, in this video, I have felt really drawn to like help people specifically with pricing, because I feel like it's something that photographers struggle with so much. And I get it, because like I have been, you know, in my photography business in the past, have been in situations where I was just really unsure of pricing, especially when I moved to a new location. And I was just really confused because the pricing seemed so different from my last city that I was in. I just noticed like, okay, the cost of living is the same here, but photographers seem like they are charging a lot less. And just the dynamics of my new city were so different from my old city. And I mean, there's just so much that goes into it, right? Like maybe you live in a high touristy area, like that's, all of that is going to affect your prices. And I've been there when I was not confident about my prices or unsure. Or I remember one year, like I got to the end of the year and realized I made hardly any money, and I was a mom and I was away from my kids, and it was just so depressing, like doing my taxes and realizing how much money I made, and was thinking like I was away from my babies, you know, so many hours and I didn't make anything. Like this wasn't worth it. And I don't want you to be in that same situation. I feel like so many photographers are just so unsure of, you know, how do I charge, you know, not too much so that I'm getting booked, and charge enough that I'm making enough to cover my expenses and enough for it to be worth it to me. So anyway, I have just felt really drawn to help photographers with this specific topic. And I have finally, like in the last few years, really been able to figure this out in a way that I've been able to finally build a sustainable 6-figure photography business and price in a way that I'm still getting fully booked. All of my clients I charge, well, I've got different packages, but my middle package right now is $750, and I still have the clients with me that were with me when I was charging $300. And so I've been able to bring my clients with me even with raising my prices. And I want to help other photographers be able to build a business like this as well, that is sustainable, where you are able to serve your clients well, and you're able to serve your family and, you know, the people that you're supporting with your income as well. Okay, so let's get into what you should be charging as a newborn photographer. Okay, so your pricing should be based on facts, right? Not emotions. So something that I hear from photographers a lot is like, well, I just believe that everyone should be able to have family photos, and therefore I should always be really cheap so that I can cater to everyone and everyone can have photos. So maybe they're charging like $50 a session because they believe every single person deserves family photos. And the thing about it is, photography is a luxury service. So as much as you may think everyone should have family photos, it's not like food. That would be different. Or water, clean water, something like that. Like, yes, everybody deserves food and clean water, you know, but photography is a luxury service. So I want you to think about a donut shop. Okay, so what if a donut shop said something like, well, we believe everybody deserves donuts, and so we have to keep our prices really, really low. We have to charge 25 cents a donut because we believe everybody deserves donuts, and we can't raise our prices because then some people wouldn't be able to afford donuts. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because people don't need donuts. And also, the donut shop wouldn't be able to cover their expenses. They'd go out of business really quickly. And that's what I see happening to photographers who say things like this. And I understand it comes from a place of empathy, and I get it. But you're going to burn out so quickly, and then you're not going to be able to serve people. So, and like I said, I get having empathy and wanting to give back to your community. I just go about it in a different way. So I don't do any discounts. I don't lower my prices. I have pretty high prices for my area. But what I do is, if there's a family in need, or if I hear of someone for some reason I feel like I need to give them free photos, then I will give them free photos. And I'm able to offer free sessions to people a lot of times because I charge high sustainable prices that allow me the freedom and flexibility to have time in my schedule to do free sessions when I feel like they're needed. So I did a free session recently for a family with cancer where the family member, they weren't sure how much longer this person was going to live. I did a free family session for another family I know who the grandmother was about to pass away, and they wanted photos all together before she did. So I'm just trying to say, like, I don't have no empathy just because I have high prices, and I actually feel like it is my high prices that allows me to give back to people who, you know, just like you guys say, and deserve family photos. Okay, so just because you have high prices doesn't mean you have empathy, and your prices should be based on facts, not feelings. And that is really going to help you a lot in your photography business. If you try to tell yourself, like, this is business, I have reasons for these numbers, and, you know, I don't have to just feel bad for people if they can't afford me. And another thing I want to say is there are always going to be photographers who are charging less than you. There's going to be people who are just starting out. There's going to be people who, you know, are looking for models to grow their portfolio. And so when you say to yourself, like, everybody deserves family photos, if you are charging higher prices and those people can't afford you, you can always refer them to someone who is just starting out, who, you know, needs those clients to help build their portfolio. Maybe they're doing $50 sessions because they just started out and they can't charge more than that right now. Their skills are not where they need to be. And so by charging that higher amount, you're not only able to serve people better and not burn yourself out and serve your family better, but you're also serving those other photographers well. Because if you are really good, really experienced, but you stay at those lower prices, then those lower price photographers who are just coming into the market are not going to have clients. But if you go ahead and move up to the next level, then you're reserving those lower paying clients for the less experienced photographers who are just coming into the market, and they are going to have family photos. There's always going to be people charging $50 sessions. And so what you can do is just have a list of photographers that you can refer those people to. If they come to you and they can't afford your services, refer them to someone else. You're serving them because they're getting those family photos. You're serving the photographer that needs that experience and needs the portfolio building. You're serving yourself because you're not going to burn yourself out with too many low price sessions, and you're serving your family well because you're going to meet your income goals better. And then you'll have that room in your schedule to offer those free sessions when it is just tugging on your heartstrings that you need to serve someone with a free session. Okay, so here are the steps that you're going to need to do in order to figure out your exact pricing. And before we get into it, I actually have come out with a completely new product. I haven't seen anyone do anything like this, and it's completely new for me as well. And it is a custom AI pricing and packages coach, and it will actually figure all of these things out for you, and it is completely customized to your exact business. And so many of my students have been telling me how helpful this has been for them, especially because this is something that so many photographers struggle with. And so many of my students have been telling me that this has finally given them the clarity that they've needed and have never had before. I've had so many people use this product, from like brand new photographers who are just starting out all the way to like super experienced people who have been in the industry longer than I have. And everybody has been saying that, like, no matter where they are in the spectrum, it has been so helpful for them. So it helps you figure out your cost of doing business. It helps you figure out literally exact numbers for what you should be charging for your sessions or weddings or whatever you do, based on like all of your specifics, like who's your ideal client, what's your location, what is your income goals, like literally it will factor in all of these things in order to give you a very specific number for your business. And it will help you with like overcoming pricing objections. Like if you are struggling with like people telling you you're too expensive, it will help you with figuring out how to structure your packages in a way that's going to attract your ideal client. It's going to be different for everyone. There's so many different ways to structure your packages. Maybe you're all inclusive, maybe you're maybe you are IPS, or maybe you upsell. Like there are so many different things, so many different ways to structure your packages, and this will literally help you figure out what is going to work best for your business and get the most people to book with you, serve people the best, and also make you the most amount of income for your unique situation. And then it's also going to help you raise your prices in a way that is going to work best for you, like without losing clients. Like I said, like I still have my clients that have been with me from the beginning, and I have not lost them even though I've raised my prices so much. So this bot is going to help you like with your specific situation, what are some strategies where you can raise prices without losing business. And I think I went over most things. It can also help you figure out, like, you can tell it things like, okay, here are my exact prices, and here are some things I'm struggling with. Like people are telling me I'm too expensive, or, I'm fully booked, but I'm not meeting my income goals, and it can help you figure all of that out. So people have been telling me that this is so helpful, and I'm so happy, and I would love to have more people jump in on this because I think it will really help you, and it is insanely affordable. So I'm going to leave a link to that in the description, but I'm also going to be explaining in this video how you're going to calculate your exact prices. Okay, so step number 1 is to figure out your cost of doing business. And I know a lot of photographers just kind of feel like, okay, I have no idea what that means or how to calculate that. And like I said, my pricing coach will help you like literally step by step figure out your cost of doing business with no judgment. And then also I know a lot of photographers say things like, okay, I've run my cost of doing business and the numbers that it's giving me are just insane. Like there's no way I can charge that much money. And I totally get that as well. And this bot will literally walk you through all that. And you can even tell it like that, like, I don't think people will pay that much. And it's going to factor in all of these things that are unique to your business, right? Okay. And then the next thing is you need to factor in your location. Kind of like I said, this is important for a few reasons. Number 1 is your cost of living. And so this is going to affect your income goals and your income needs. So if you're in a smaller rural community, you don't need to make as much money because your cost of living isn't as high, right? And then also when you think about the people around you, they're probably not going to have as high of a discretionary income. They don't have as much money to spend. And so you need to factor that in as well. Versus if you live in a large city, maybe you live in New York City, then, rent is insane. You're going to need to make more money in order to cover your costs, especially if you have like a studio in New York City. Like your costs are going to be way higher, and you're going to need to make more in order just to like sustain yourself and live. Like a living wage is going to be higher in New York City than it is going to be in rural Alabama. And then you also are going to factor in your income goals. So kind of like we talked about, if you are someone who, maybe you are primarily a stay-at-home mom and your husband makes most of the money, but you would like to bring in an extra $10,000 a year. That's something you need to factor in. Or maybe you are supporting multiple people and you need to make a higher income. So those types of income goals are going to be something you need to factor in as well. Obviously you can charge a lot less if you don't need to make as much money, versus you'll need to charge more if this is a job that is supporting, like I said, you and a lot more people. And then you also want to figure out how many sessions you can realistically shoot. So if you are someone that doesn't have as much time, you're homeschooling a bunch of kids, then you won't be able to shoot as many sessions as someone who is single and, doesn't mind working a lot. But then another thing you want to factor in too is the less sessions that you shoot, per week or per year, the more you're going to have to charge in order to meet your income goals, versus if you are okay with shooting 20 sessions per week, you can charge a much smaller amount per session in order to meet your income goals. And then another thing I want to talk about here too is a lot of people, like when I see people calculate cost of doing business, a lot of like photography teachers, they'll say things like, oh, you don't want to shoot more than 2 sessions per week. That's way too many. And so when you factor in your cost of doing business with only shooting 2 sessions per week, it comes out to be like $1,200. And a lot of people think that they can't charge that amount of money. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see when calculating cost of doing business, and why you think your session price needs to be so high. But I think there's ways to be able to shoot more sessions without adding too much onto your plate. So one thing that I've done personally in order to really cut down the amount of work that I'm doing and be able to shoot more sessions per week is I have automated almost everything on the back end of my business. And I've talked about this a lot in other videos because this has been such a huge game changer in my photography business, because it's allowed me to be able to work more without actually working more hours. Like I can shoot more sessions and do more of the things that I actually love. So I shoot my sessions, I edit my sessions, I don't do a whole lot else, because my inquiry process is automated, my email marketing is automated, my booking process is automated, pretty much everything's automated. Like I don't do a lot of client communication. I pretty much don't do anything except shoot and edit. Every once in a while someone will reach out and I'll help them with whatever they need. But even my pricing guide gets sent automatically. My outfit guide gets sent automatically. So I really hardly do anything besides shoot and edit. And I'm able to take on so many more sessions than I could when I was, responding to each inquiry, manually. And I was, sending each person a contract and invoice and just keeping up with all of that. So that just took up so much time per week. And once I automated everything, I was able to take on a lot more sessions, and it really increased the amount I was making per hour, since I was working so little time on the admin type stuff. So that's one thing. Maybe you don't want to do that because it just doesn't align with your ideal client and how you want to run your business. That's fine. There's other things you could do. You could outsource your editing, or there's so many different business models out there. I mean, people even like hire associate shooters and have a team. So there's so many ways to be able to shoot more sessions per week without actually working more hours, whatever you need to outsource or automate or anything like that. So if you are getting a number from your cost of doing business that just seems way too high, that's something you can think about. Like, okay, well, maybe it's my sessions per week number in here that's making this number so high. How can I figure out a way to realistically shoot more sessions? Or, maybe you need to lower your costs in some way. Like maybe if you have a studio, like that's just not really serving you when it comes to like your costs being so high that you can't charge the amount that you need to cover your costs. So there's a lot of different things to think through about like, okay, if I'm getting a number that's not making sense, then like what can I think through about how to change this to make it work for me? And then, so with all of this, like I said, there's just so much that goes into it. Like I can't give you a specific number in this video because it's going to be different for every business, and it's so specific to you and your unique needs and all of these things that I've talked about in this video. And so I really highly recommend that new AI pricing coach that I was talking about. It is going to walk you through all of this. You can input all of the information about your business, what you're struggling with, what you're currently charging, what you are currently making versus what you need to make. Literally anything that you're struggling with, you can talk to my new AI coach about it, and it will help you so much, even with like, okay, well, if I'm charging these prices, then I need to have this type of ideal client, and this is the wording I need to use on my website to attract that type of person. So literally it will walk you through all this, and it will give you literal exact numbers based on your location and everything that's unique about your business. And then if you get to the end and you say like, okay, how do I realistically charge that much, as much as I need to make to cover my expenses? It will walk you through how you can do that. Or you can say things like, okay, I don't think I'm able to charge $1,200, which is what my cost of doing business is saying I need to charge in order to cover my costs. You can tell it like, okay, what can I change? Like, what costs can I try to decrease, or how can I make it so that I can shoot more sessions? Or it can walk you through all of those things, and people have been just telling me how ridiculously helpful it is, and I am so glad, because I just feel like this is something that so many photographers really, really, really struggle with. And it just breaks my heart knowing that so many photographers get to the end of the year and realize like, I made hardly anything and it was not worth it for being away from my babies, or how much stress it was to do this on top of my full-time job, whatever it may be. And so I really believe in photographers making a living wage. And that is what I want to help you guys with. And I want to help you be fully booked and be super successful. And that is why I'm so glad that I've been able to make this pricing coach so affordable for you. It's literally a no-brainer. So I'm going to leave that in the description below. If you have any questions about pricing that I can answer for you, go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section of this video, and I can either try to address that in a new video or just address it in a comment for you. But like I said, it's so specific to your unique business that it's really impossible to give like a specific number without knowing all those things. So I hope this was helpful for you in some way, and let me know what questions you have or what else you want to see from me in the future. I'd be happy to make a video just for you based on any questions that you have about photography in general, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.